So today we're going to be talking about the top 5 RGB units that you guys should be prioritizing on your account from banners, whether you be an old player or a new player. Now, we're primarily making this video because we have the custom triple banner coming up. As you guys can see on your screen here, starting from the 9th of November for about a month, there's going to be a custom triple RGB group summon where you can choose 3 units and pull for them. They can be limited. You're just going to be restricted to units that have reran already, and also units that are not from collabs, and their artifacts will also be available. Now back to the video guys. Before we actually start with the top 5, let's start with some honorable mentions. So the first honorable mention I have here is Zahhak. Zahhak is an Earth Warrior, extremely powerful in PvP because he has increased hit chance and critical hit chance, making him easier to build. You only need him on 50% crit, and also because of the fact that that hit chance will actually work against evasion. He also has injuries and invincibility, making him very good against HP scaling bruisers, has a cleanse for himself and an ally, and a CR push, and with his exclusive equipment he can even self-attack buff himself and an ally, which makes him an attack buffer, an evasion counter, a single target nuker, an injury unit, and can also apply invincibility to himself, so he can actually take another turn after with his S1. His S1 with his soul burn, which is only 10 souls, will hit extremely hard. This skill is super strong. Zahhak is one of the best single target nukers in the game, very good for PvP, and will also be very strong in PvE as well, in areas of content where you need a strong damage dealing unit. Next up we have Yulha, another honorable mention, Earth Knight. She's very powerful because she is probably the best RGB Knight for Guild Wars offense, and also good in RTA in most situations in the current meta. And that is because of the fact that her S3 will actually do more damage the lower she is, similar to Krau's S3, and this is very strong because on kill this will actually heal her. You're also going to see when she actually gets hit by a single target attack, she will reflect damage, and when she gets hit below a certain threshold, she will actually get a barrier in CR push, so she can use her S3 right after. Very good on Aureus, very good in PvP. In PvE not really used that much, but in PvP if you pair her with a Soul Weaver such as Destina, or even Ruel, or even Angelic Montmorency, basically whatever you have, she can basically win you pretty much every Guild Wars if you just stay in the fight long enough, because her S3 just hits like a truck, will one-shot pretty much any unit in the game, and her S1 being able to revoke is very nice to actually set up the chain of attacks into Yulha to proc her passive and then S3 right after. Last honorable mention is going to be Ran, only if you have the speed gear to actually make him work. Very powerful cleave unit with his S2 giving attack buff to himself and immunity to everyone, which will stop like politises and anything that has debuffs. Ran's S3 also has an AoE defense break that can ignore effect resist with the soul burn, and also has a skill Nully. His damage also scales with speed, which makes him very good for speed contesting because one, his base speed is already very high, at the highest in the game at 129, but also because you can actually just put in full speed with like 100% crit and the rest into damage, whatever spare subs you have, and he'll still do his job. He still does a lot of damage. Now, only recommend him if you have speed gear. If you don't have like speed pieces in every single slot, like probably like 15, 16 speed or more, then I don't really think he's worth it because he's pretty much only useful if he takes the first turn, but when he does, he's very strong. So number 5 at this list actually, starting off the top 5, we have Destina, who's available from the selective summon. Very powerful Soul Weaver in both PvP and PvE. She has an AoE revive, she has a full cleanse on her S3 as well, she has tons of healing with her S2 and S3, she has CR cycling, and she even has an S1 that can heal one ally. So very good at healing. That's pretty much all she does, and her revive is very good. In PvP, she's extremely strong with units that actually like to play slow. For example, units like Spectre Tenebria, she's very good. She's also very good into cleave because she has built-in effect resist from her Spirit's Blessing passive, and also because she can revive units that actually die. Now keep in mind, Spyro Cesaria, very popular ML5 star in the current meta, is a good counter to her, but if you can avoid units that counter revive, then she's a pretty good solid Soul Weaver all around. PvE, she's just solid pretty much everywhere you need just healing. She's not going to be as good as like Tamarinne because Tamarinne does a lot more, but Destina's good where you need pure healing. There's going to be instances like in Abyss and even Nightmare Raid where she'll be one of the best Soul Weavers to pick. Definitely a good unit and a good pickup to have whenever you see her running, or if you have a triple custom banner running like we do now. Number 4 on the list is Roana, probably one of the best PvP Soul Weavers in the game, if not the best, debatably because of her S2. Her main mechanic is in her S2 where if you actually get hit by dual attacks, counter attacks, or extra attacks, you push your entire team in the combat readiness bar and also heal them by a very high amount. You also have that S3 barrier and revive and heal, which is super annoying. So basically, she's extremely powerful in PvE in so many areas of content. I can list so many like expeditions, automaton tower. She's good in abyss, she's good in raid. She's just really powerful. And even in adventure mode, she's the best soul weaver besides like Tamarinne, probably tied for Tamarinne, right? And then in PvP, she's good against units with counters and also extra attacks, right? So units such as like Navy Captain Landy, she can be decent against. She can be decent against anything with counters, such as like Green Violet, Fire, Edward Elric, etc. Just anything with counterattack, she's very good. For that reason, she's one of the must-have units in this game. She is very good in PvP and PvE, and she doesn't require that many good pieces, because yeah, all she needs to do is stay alive and use her S2. And even when she's CC'd, her S2 actually procs, so you don't even really need effect resist on her for the most part. You just need her to be tanky. So she's very easy to build, one of the easiest build units in the game, and she's just very effective in PvP and PvE, making her a top 5 unit for sure. Third on this list, another green unit, we have Landy, probably the best damage dealing unit in PvE overall, because of her stacking damage passive in her S2. This is insane. We also have her S3 that does a ton of AoE damage that will penetrate defense, give everyone speed buff, which is very good in PvE, especially for expeditions where you are limited to a certain amount of turns, because you can lap the boss over and over and actually be able to take way more turns than if you didn't have that speed buff. Also, it's an AoE CR push, which is very nice, and her S1 is a single target attack, which might seem like it doesn't do much, but it gives you a ton of CR and also does a ton of damage. So one of the best damage dealers in the game because she doesn't have any debuffs, and also because she has a lot of scaling in longer fights, and she has support for her team as well. She's very good in expeditions, very good in Nightmare Raid, very good in Abyss, very good in Banshee if you want to run her there. Just very good in so many areas of content, and in PvP she's usable as well, as long as you have her on the artifact known as Guiding Light, which you can actually get from Cerise's banners. If you actually want this, you can actually pull for it as well on the triple banner, and this is going to be very good on her. It just gives her a lot of survivability. In PvE, if you run her, just pop her on like a Bloodstone, and you'll have not only the strongest DPS in the game for most of the PvE content, but with Bloodstone, you can actually run her in a comp with no Soul Weavers, because she does so much damage, you're actually going to see that she heals so much as well. And number 2 on this list, we have Lua. So hard to put her not at number 1, but the only reason I don't have her at number 1 is because she is pretty much permabanned in World Arena, so you'll never play her there, honestly. And on defense team, she's not that great. She's mostly a World Arena unit, but she is the most broken World Arena unit, and I'd say by a good margin. And that's why she's in the top 5, and yeah. So basically your S3, you'll dispel 1 buff from all enemies, cool. You'll also increase skill cooldowns by 1 turn, which is one of the most broken effects in this game, and inflict Beguile, which is pretty much every single turn that the enemy takes with this debuff, you'll be doing damage to all their allies equal to the inflicted user's health. So if you actually inflict this on like a 30k HP tank, they'll do 3k damage to their damage dealer. So this does like a ton of damage. It's actually kind of insane, and it's very underestimated. Also the speed buff, like I mentioned, which is very nice. And the biggest thing is you can actually ignore effect resist if you soul burn this, so you will always land that skill cooldown reset, crippling pretty much every unit in the game. You pretty much just win the game if you get this off and you reset the skill cooldowns of your enemies. If you have a book holder that has 20 souls for you and you use Lua with her and you soul burn this in RTA, you pretty much will win like 90% of the time. Her S2, it is a single target attack to dispel 2 debuffs or 2 buffs before putting them to sleep, and you'll get an extra turn. So you can try to sleep a key unit, and then you S3, you have 2 chances to disable a unit, and of course you have that increased skill cooldown. This is going to be very good against Politises, so if you sleep Politis and then S3, they actually can't wake up, so very powerful. And then to top it all off, her S1 has defense break for 2 turns. Smilegate, I don't know why this is 2 turns, but okay, it should just be 1. But if this lands, that unit is pretty much dead, because you'll have a damage dealer that can eventually take a turn before the inflicted target takes 2 turns, and you can actually just kill them usually with 1 or 2 skills. So very powerful. Extremely good in PvP, like everywhere. She's just banned all the time, and in defense teams she's still very good, but there's answers to her now. But honestly, she's still very good in defense teams, so for that reason she's at number 2. She'd be at number 1 if there was another unit that rivaled her strength that could get banned, but she gets banned all the time, and she counters Nadawan Monk, which is a newly released unit that works similarly, but Lua is direct counter to her, so yeah, kind of hard to actually put her anywhere below number 2. And then last but not least, we have Tamarinne. So there's a lot to say about her, but there's not really a lot to say because everyone probably knows. She has a full cleanse, she has idle form, which is a pretty cool mechanic where she will upgrade her skills. Basically, she has AoE CR pushing, she has AoE attack buff, AoE healing, she has AoE dispels. She has a dual attack from your ally, which means she's doing a ton of damage as well. And she even will be a very good frontliner because she heals to full health when she uses her S3, which by the way starts on cooldown. So the way you actually get this off cooldown is by using your S2 and S1. It'll actually decrease the cooldown by an additional turn. Additionally, you can pair it with like an Asteria to reset her S3 cooldown with Asteria's S2 at the start of battle. But Tamarinne, where do you not use her in PvE? She's used pretty much everywhere, right? Like Raid, she's used in 4 out of the 5 expeditions. She's used in like 3 out of the 5 hunts. She is used pretty much everywhere in Adventure. She's used pretty much everywhere in Automaton Tower and Abyss. She's pretty much a must-have unit. Pretty much, right? So many pretty muches, but that's how good she is. Like, she is definitely a must-have unit, I'd say. I don't care what people say. If they say like, oh, I can create this unit, like area of content with this unit and that area of content with this unit as a soul weaver, Tamarinne makes it so that you only need 1 unit geared for all that area of content, which is her biggest plus, and she's also the best at it, and that will save you a ton of gold in the long run because Epic 7 is a game where it costs gold to unequip gear. Don't ask me why. I don't know why it's still in the game, but it still is. But yeah, that pretty much sums up this video though, guys. If you guys have any other opinions or disagreements, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always excited to hear your opinions, and we'll take it into account for the next video. And I'll also be releasing a full tier list for the custom triple banner in the near future, in a couple of days after this video is released. So keep your eyes out for that. If you guys want to see that, make sure you guys sub to get that update when that video drops. Peace.